Zo.
Ja, dat is rollen. Ja.
Goed zo?
Ja. En moet u naam zeggen?
Ja, ik zal dat
Ja.
voorlezen. Hè? Dus u zegt wanneer we beginnen.
Ja, doe maar.
Today is December 14th. I will be interviewing Alfreda Künstler. My name is Viviane Teitelboom. The interview will be conducted in Antwerp, Belgium, in the English language.
Ja. Oké, camera goed.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
We will start the interview. Can you please spell your name?
My name Alfreda Künstler.
Can you spell it?
Spell it. A-L-F-R-E-D-A. K Künstler. K-U-N-S-T-L-E-R.
What was your name at birth? Your name at birth.
That was my name,
At birth,
my given name.
Alfreda.
Künstler. No, Alfreda Friedman. Sorry.
Thank you. Can you spell it?
Yes.
Friedman.
F-R-E-I-D-M-A-N-N.
Thank you. Where were you born?
On the 13th of January 1931
Where?
in Wieliczka, Poland.
Thank you. How old are you today?
92.
Can you spell the name of the town where you were born?
Spell the name of what?
Wieliczka.
Yeah. W-I-E-L-I-C-Z-K-A.
Was it near a large city? Was Wieliczka near a large city?
Near Kraków.
What was your mother's name?
Bronisława Friedman. Licht, born Licht.
When was she born?
I don't remember when she was born.
Where was she born?
In Wieliczka.
Okay. What education did she receive?
Well, she was studying at the university in Krakow, the languages, English and German.
And what was her family like?
Well, you mean her parents, my grandparents, Moses Licht. They lived in Wieliczka, they had their own house. My grandfather had a warehouse with, well, whatever. She was helping in the office because there were many children there. She was one of the youngest. She had still one younger sister.
What's the strongest memory you have of your mother?
Wonderful memories. She had a very difficult life. She was married to my father, Markus Friedman. It was a very big family. There were many sisters he had, and he had it was a very rich family. He was directing 3 factories. It was a sawmill, a bricklayers, and the flour mill.
And where was he born?
Also in Wieliczka.
Okay. And what type of education did he receive?
I don't think a formal education, a university or anything. At the time, it wasn't, you know, that they didn't do it simply. The children were born, they went to school, they went to work, or they did whatever. My mother was in front of her time, very much so.
What is the strongest memory you have of your father? The strongest memory of your father?
Of my father? He was a very, very nice man. And my mother was very strict. So we had to sit properly in the morning at the table. I was the smallest, so I had to sit separate with my nurse. And I was getting special food. And my first really memory, the nearest of my father, that he took pity on me. He picked me up, he took me to the table, and he let me taste some of his beer he was drinking at the table. So.
What languages did your mother speak with her family, with her parents?
Polish, always Polish language.
And your father with his family, with his parents?
Also Polish.
Do you remember your grandparents?
I remember him very well.
On your mother's side?
Yes.
What were they like?
He was a religious Jew, but he was very nice. They lived in a nice house, and he had many children there because he was married 3 times. So I had many cousins, you know, and aunts and uncles and all sorts. It was a very big Jewish family.
And on your father's side, do you remember your grandparents? What were they like?
I didn't know them because my father was much older than my mother. So I remember his sisters. There were 1, 2, 3. There were 3 sisters. They lived in a big house not far from us.
And did you have any siblings? Did you have any sisters or brothers?
Anything to what?
Did you have sisters or brothers?
Me, yes. I had 1 sister and 1 brother.
What were their names?
My brother was Elias Friedman, and my sister was Eleonora Friedman.
When were they born?
I don't remember, but they were much older than me.
And who was the oldest?
Eleonora. She was the oldest.
What were they like?
Oh, you know, like brothers and sisters are. Same.
Can you describe your family home?
What, the house? Oh, it was a beautiful house, quite big. It was built out of stone, had a garden all around on 3 sides. There was a garden with flowers and a garden with fruit, and there was a little house, a pigeon house. That's about all I remember from there. Yeah.
Was there anyone else living with you, with the family in the house?
In the house upstairs was my mother's brother living with his wife and his son, my cousin.
And anyone else? Anyone else living in the house?
Living in the house? There was a maid always living in the house.
What language did you speak at home?
Pardon?
What language did you speak at home?
Polish only.
What did your family do in the evenings, for instance?
Everybody busy with himself, sort of, or playing games and watching films and things like that, you know.
And how did you like to spend your time?
By myself, I like to walk a lot, and I'm spending a lot of time with my cousin that lived upstairs. So we were always together because there's not a big difference of age. He was a bit older, but...
What toys did you have? What toys did you have?
I don't remember. What?
Toys. Toys. Did you have toys to play with?
What came with?
Or what books did you read?
Oh, books. I read a lot, always. My favorite was the Odyssey.
And
my aunts thought that my mother let me read such books that I was going to grow up not quite all right. They were saying at the time you were supposed to read little children's books.
And did you listen to music?
Not that much. I had piano lessons because you had to have.
Do you remember how your birthdays were celebrated?
Oh, yes. It was great fun. It was a real Jewish custom that you put the child in the middle of a carpet and you threw nuts and almonds at him, everybody. And then we had presents of all sorts, obviously.
Did you go to theater? Did you go to the theater?
To theater. When I grew up later, when I was after the war, yes.
Can you tell us about your religious observance?
Well, I was brought up in a Christian children's home because my mother said they had the best discipline and they taught the children best. So I was brought up in a very Catholic upbringing. But at home we were very Jewish normally. Celebrated all the holidays and all that.
So did you go to synagogue?
Well, I was too small to go to synagogue. But of course, my grandfather, we were all going for all the holidays.
What
so
was
there were prayers said, we sat at the table, the whole family, and that was very Jewish upbringing, normal.
What was your favorite holiday, Jewish holiday?
I suppose Pesach,
Why?
because my grandfather was sitting with all the pillows and the whole story was being told, you know, the Haggadah and the questions asked. And it was mystic because then the Messiah was supposed to come in. It was frightening for the children, the knock on the door, and then Baruch haba, come in. And then there were presents, of course, also for the children, always. You know, the usual.
Did you eat kosher at home?
Well, before the war, yes. During the war, of course not.
Did you do your bat mitzvah? Did you do your bat mitzvah?
My
Bat mitzvah?
matric, you mean at school?
No, I mean like if your brother had his bar mitzvah, did you have your bat mitzvah?
I can't hear you.
Bat mitzvah. It's okay, we continue. Were your grandparents very Hasidic?
If they were happy,
Were they very religious?
they were religious, yes.
So, tell us now a little bit about your education. So you went to the Catholic school, you said?
I went to a normal school. There were Jewish children and non-Jewish children. And till the third form. When I was in the third form, the Germans already came to Poland, and all the Jewish children were expelled from school.
Do you remember your teachers?
My teacher, yes. I remember her very well. She was a lovely person. And after the war, I was still in touch with her because she remembered her old pupils always. It was very nice. She died in Bieliczka.
And when do you remember when you were expelled from school?
Yes, I remember exactly. It was the third form when the war broke out and the Germans took over.
And how did you feel?
Very, very bad.
And-
obviously.
And do you remember what you did when you could not go to school anymore?
All the Jewish people in Wieliczka got organized, and we had private lessons. There was a teacher, and I was learning at home with the. We were a group of few Jewish children, and we were learning privately with the teacher.
And did you see your friends from school still, or?
Yes, I did. I had one particular friend that we were always together, and after the war I came back to school and I was again with her.
And when you were in school, did she come to visit with you in your house?
Yes, she was coming home and I was going to her home, and the mothers knew each other.
And when you were expelled from school, did she continue to come?
Yes, always.
Okay.
And actually she was criticized for it. They were calling her Jew lover. You know how it was at the time.
Did you experience anti-Semitism in school before the war? Did you feel anti-Semitism in school before the war?
Before the war, no. No problems.
And when the war broke out, did it change for you?
Of course, changed completely. We were out of school, and then my mother was representing the Jewish community. She became the member of parliament of the representing the Jewish community in Wieliczka.
What did she do?
She was getting, had to talk with the Gestapo. She had to, if somebody wanted to travel from Wieliczka to Kraków, they had to get a special permit. So she was getting the permits for them. She was trying to arrange work for them. She was doing the best she could for the whole community, sort of taking care of the Jewish community in Wieliczka.
And did people come to your house to seek help?
Yes.
Do you remember how that was organized?
Who came to the house?
The Jews? Did they come?
The Jewish people.
Yes.
They were coming always, talking with her and asking for this and for this and for that. And she said, all right, I'll do my best. And she was going to the Gestapo and asking them for it. She was speaking well German, so she was representing, and she was arranging for them work and also whatever she could help in whichever way.
And was she known in the neighborhood where you lived before the war?
Yes, of course.
What did she do before she became that person to represent them? Did she have an activity?
After my father died, we were in difficulty, had no money, had the big house to keep, and She had the children, the 3 children, so she was giving lessons. She was preparing whoever needed help for the matric, teaching them everything. And she was also giving lessons in English and in German to whoever wanted to learn.
When did your father die?
Before the war. Before the war broke out, he didn't go through hell, the lucky man.
And when she was teaching, did she also play a role in the community? Before the war, did she play a role in the community, your mother?
Before the war, yes, she was taking care of her family.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the size of the Jewish community in Wieliczka?
Well, there were some rich people who lived in their own houses and all, and there were some very poor people who were always helped by the others. Like, for example, I remember before the war, my mother always received poor people for meals, and for holidays we were sending from the flour mill flour, you know, they could bake chalot, and some wood that they should be able to cook, and helping people whichever way possible, the poor.
Was the Jewish community in Wieliczka very religious in general?
Yes, normally yes, they were religious, except a few, they were not. There was one lawyer, there was one dentist, there were single ones who were educated and living a life their own, but normally.
And was there a Jewish school in Wieliczka?
Probably there was a very religious place, a yeshiva, there must have been, but I don't know much about that.
Thank you. Did you hear about what was happening in Germany before the war?
Well, because there were people running away from Germany and they were coming to live in Wieliczka. And there were some people living in our house also, and there was a free room, you know, like upstairs. My father had he had many friends. They liked to play cards, they were gambling, so he had his own gambling room, and there was a kitchen next to it, so they could have drinks and food and all. They were sitting there, crowd. So after he died, it was empty, so we had people coming to live upstairs in our house, families from Germany.
Different families?
Yes.
And then they continued.
And then they sort of, after the war, everybody went his own way, but
So when the war broke out, your mother became the representative of the Jewish community. What did that bring a change in your life?
well, she was just busy, and I mean, she was helping a lot to the Jewish community. For example, before they took all the Jews from Bielichka, she sent my brother to a working camp. So many of the Jewish people sent their sons away also. So when the Germans came to take everybody away from Bielichka to the camps, so they survived in the camps. Well, afterwards they were all killed also, but for the time being, you know, they were working. So.
When she was representing the Jews, did you meet the Gestapo sometimes?
Well, there was Gestapo living in the house. In our house, they took over the house. That was at the beginning. And then they had their own leader, who became the mayor of the town. And yeah. And then one day they decided they arrested my mother. And then he said, yes, when they'll decide to shoot you, I will shoot you myself, he said, and I'll bring you some roses to your funeral. Yeah, his name was Herzig. I remember him well.
Herzig? From the Gestapo?
The Bürgermeister of Wieliczka, the German one.
And when you said they took over your house, where did you live? Did you live in the same house? You stayed?
We lived in the kitchen. And they were living, they took over the whole house. Plenty of young Gestapo, I remember. Yeah.
Did they have a contact with you?
Did they?
Did they talk to you? Did they interact?
Not much, no. They were going about their business, whatever.
Did you have enough to eat at that time?
Yes. Yes, we had food.
And so, did you get arrested, or what happened then?
Then we were all sent out together, all the Jewish people. Everybody was ordered to come and to stand in a place on the, in the marketplace. It was a big place, and everybody was there. And they were transporting everybody, they were taking over to the camps to finish. And we were sitting there also. my mother and me and my sister and some cousins, my family. And then I remember the only man that was late, it was the dentist of the town. He was drunk, and he came like this to the... And the Gestapo man that was watching over just shot him in the place immediately.
In front of you?
In front of everybody, yes.
How old were you?
8.
Were you scared?
It was terrible shock to see somebody just shot. Terrible.
And where did they take you?
I don't know, wherever they...
From the place where they gathered the whole village,
Yes.
the Jews of the village?
So then, yeah. So then came an order, because my mother, being the representative, she was in touch with the ghetto in Krakow. So that came an order that Frau Friedman, with 3 children, is allowed to leave for the ghetto. So, and yeah, so she took me and my sister, and my brother wasn't there. So she took my cousin that was standing next to us, and we were put on the side. And then they came some permits from the ghetto also for my 2 uncles and for another woman. There were 16 people that got out of the transport, and they were allowed to leave for the ghetto in Krakow.
Did you have some belongings with you? Could you take some things from home?
This I don't remember well. Probably everybody had something with him, you know, a change of clothes, another pair of shoes or whatever. I don't remember that.
And do you remember how the other people reacted when you were put on the side to go to the ghetto?
Nothing. They were all standing there like, you know, in a shock. Everybody was just terrorized.
And how did you go from there to the ghetto? Do you remember?
In a lorry. There came a lorry, and we were put at the back of the lorry, and we were driven to the ghetto.
Do you remember how, when you arrived, how it looked?
It was a part of the town, a very normal, nice part of town, but it was locked in. It had a fence all around, so there was a gate. They let us in, and they closed the gate. And then there were big buildings. They took us to a building and they gave us a room in a flat. So we were all together in one room, but it was, before it was a flat belonging to many people. But in each room now there was a different family.
And did you have, sometimes could you go out of the ghetto, or did you stay, you had to stay in the ghetto?
You had to stay in all the time.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it's quite a story. My mother had a dream, and she woke up one morning and she said, I want my child to get out of the ghetto. And she was crying, and and everybody thought she went crazy, but my uncle arranged for me to get out of ghetto. Children sometimes were let in and out, small children. So I stayed with a non-Jewish family on the other side. There was a girl my age there, we were friends. And I stayed with them. And the next day we learned that during the night they came and they took all the children from the ghetto and they killed them.
Your sister?
So my mother had the right dream, that sort of a warning that she said, I want her to get out. And that saved my life.
And did your sister also got out of the ghetto, your sister?
Then I didn't want to stay with the Polish family. It was so different. I didn't like it there. And I said, the grown-ups wouldn't have let me go back, but I was friends with a girl my own age, and I said, come, we'll go back to the ghetto. I want you to, because I didn't know the way. So she took me back to the gate, and I went back in. And when I came to our room, to the building, so the people said, where do you come from? What are you doing here? As if I was a ghost, they thought, because all the children were gone.
While you were in the ghetto, did you have enough food to eat?
I think so. I don't remember being hungry ever.
So your uncle arranged for you to leave the ghetto. Do you know how he managed to organize that?
Because he had many friends that were non-Jewish in town. And that's the way he arranged it.
He was in contact with the outside.
Yes, yes. He had many friends outside.
And
always.
And did those friends come to visit him inside, or do you know how he was in contact with them?
I don't know exactly how it was working because I was too small to understand.
And so you went to this family where there was a girl and the parents. Did you know what type of family it was?
What happened to the family?
No, who was the family? Who?
Who stayed alive?
The family where your uncle put you.
The family, the Polish family. I don't remember their names. I was a very short time with them in Krakow.
And were they nice to you?
And then, yes, they were nice because they knew me. I was friends with the daughter, with the girl. We were friends always.
She was your age?
Yes, exactly.
And you shared a room with her?
I suppose so, yeah.
And the parents, they were working at that time, or?
They must have been. I was a very short time with them. It was a matter of 2-3 days.
Okay.
And then I went back. I said, I don't want to stay with you.
Okay. So you went back, and what happened? Did you find your mother?
And then we stayed in the ghetto till, yeah. It was decided that they're going to close the ghetto, and they were going to take everybody to the camps. And then we moved over to some non-Jewish people in Warsaw.
Do you remember how you managed not to be taken to the camps?
I don't remember exactly, but probably my uncle paid some friends to smuggle us out of Krakow into Warsaw. And then we were living with a family there that, of course, also not all together. My mother was living in the one part of Warsaw. I was living in another part, and my uncle and my aunt, the sister of my mother, we were living together with a non-Jewish family in Warsaw.
And your sister and your cousin? Sorry, what?
I have to change battery.
Okay. Do you remember how you left the ghetto?
I told you we left the ghetto in the lorry. They took us.
Okay.
No, not the ghetto. That was from Wieliczka. From Krakow. Smuggled out, I suppose. Each one separate. And then we could meet, because you see, when we were in Warsaw, so we couldn't be together, because when they saw my mother in the street with me, so there were people coming out asking, "What are you doing with a Jewish child?" Because I looked Jewish, and my mother was tall and blonde, and she didn't look Jewish. So they didn't understand what's going on. So then we got separated.
And your sister and your cousin were not with you anymore?
No.
They were taken that night with the other children?
My sister was hiding with a family in Wieliczka, with a non-Jewish family that lived in the house of my grandfather. So she was at the beginning with them.
So she also escaped from the ghetto. She also escaped from the ghetto.
Yes.
And your cousin? And your cousin?
Yes, my cousin was always with me. We were together for quite some time.
In hiding?
Yes.
So you got to Warsaw and you stayed with the family?
It was a non-Jewish family. Actually, we were hiding. They were hiding us. And then everybody was divided because it became difficult. And I was taken in by a non-Jewish family where the man, he was a Polish writer, and he was always writing about, the Germans didn't like him, they took him to a camp. So there was the wife with the daughters, and they were hiding us.
When you say they were
hiding the Jewish people, the Jewish children.
Okay, many?
There were 3 of us hiding there. And then the others, they left, I don't know, and they sort of introduced me officially as a cousin of theirs who came from France to stay. So I was living with them like a part of a family.
Did you receive a new name?
Yes, of course.
Do you remember the name?
I don't remember the name first. Like it was, yeah, I remember. Marie Poisson. It had to be a French name. So they called me Marie. Yes.
And how was the life in that family for you?
Oh, it was lovely. They brought a special teacher for me, and she was teaching me all about the Christian religion. So I could live like a non-Jewish member of the family.
Did you go to church with them?
They didn't go to church. Only I remember the girl coming and teaching me everything at home there.
And did you have enough food?
Yes. Yes. Everybody had the food carts, and they had enough food.
And did you have your room, a room for you, or how did you live?
Probably I had a room. I don't remember exactly how it was because it wasn't for a very long time.
Did you stay at home?
Then I lived in a part of Warsaw where the uprising started. So,
while you lived with them, did you go out or did you have to stay home? How was it for you?
no, I could go out. Yes, but I didn't have many friends. I was just with them, and it was a short time I lived with them till the uprising started.
Do you remember what year that was?
The Polish uprising and I don't remember the date.
Do you remember how old you were?
I must have been then about 14, 12, between 12 and 15.
So you stayed most of the war with them.
Yes, during the uprising, we were all sort of living in the cellars. Oh, excuse me. I don't know where my son.
So while you were hiding in the house, did you have contact with your mother?
Not much. I knew that she is all right, but she was with some different part of war, so.
And did you have news from your brother, for instance?
No. At the time, I had no news from anybody.
And were you aware of what was going on?
Yeah, I was like, you know, when the fighting started, so all the young people were helping, and of course all the boys of a certain age, grown up, they were fighting. And in our cellar, it was sort of we were receiving the wounded. So I was running around the gardens. The Germans were shooting, so we had to run like this, not in the street, to another cellar to bring the supplies. For example, they needed, I don't know, iodine or bandages or something. So I was running, bringing it back to our cellar. We were treating the wounded. Oh, it was quite a time.
So was the family where you were in hiding, were they in the resistance?
They were fighting. I mean, the man was in the camp, so there was only the lady and her daughter and her son. They were there. So they were fighting, they were taking care, you know, everybody was helping whatever he could do.
And did they have contact with the resistance? Did you know about that? How did the wounded come there? How did it happen? How did the wounded people get to your place?
They were bringing them at night, I suppose, through the window in the cellar, sort of smuggling in the bodies. It was a terrible time.
Were you scared?
Well, yes, of course. I was sitting in my corner, and when they were telling me, go and bring something, so I was just running out of the window across the garden to another cellar, saying, give me this or that, and coming back. That's it.
And how did you have news from the outside?
From the people that were fighting, they were running around the roofs, and my uncle was one of them. He was running from one place to another around the roofs, so he could get idea. He could get in touch with my mother. He could get in touch with me.
Was your uncle in the resistance? Was your uncle in the resistance?
Yes.
Did you know what he was doing?
I don't know. Fighting, but doing what, I don't know.
He never talked about it with you?
No. Not really, no.
Did you know if your mother was also in the resistance during the war?
They were in touch, so he knew that she was all right.
And did you have, could you see your uncle? Did he told you about your mother?
Yes, yes.
And until how long did you stay there?
And, well, I don't remember how long it took the fighting, but all through the fighting, I was there, and he was bringing me food also because, you know, there wasn't enough.
And how did it end?
It ended very badly. It ended that, yeah, I don't remember how come, but my sister was smuggled in from Wieliczka, and she was in the cellars with me during the uprising. I remember she was during the uprising with me. And then one day there was an announcement. The Germans said, all the people, the resistance, come out of the cellars. We're not going to shoot. You can come out. And there were some that were afraid to come out. They were smuggling themselves through the channels underground. They were going out, and we were still in the cellar. And they said, okay, you can come out and get the water. And everybody came out. I came out with my sister with the buckets. We went to get water. And we were standing in a queue, and they started shooting. And when they shot, they shot the bucket, and I stayed just with the handle in my hand like this, you know? And my sister got hit. She got hit, she got killed there. And many people got killed in the queue. And then they said, okay, everybody's marching out, all the resistance, and we're taking you to a camp. The camp was called Pruszków. And it was again everybody marching to the camp. And of course, I knew I'm Jewish. I'm not like the other young people that I was in touch with. So I said, I'm not going to the camp. I can't. And I decided to smuggle myself out when there was no German watching, because they were going, there was a big queue like this, and there was one guard, and then another, and then another. So I had a friend that we were runners together. So he gave me his pair of shoes. He had a spare pair of shoes. And when one of the Germans was watching, I smuggled myself out into a house, entrance of the house, and I was sitting there in a corner till everybody passed to the camps.
Was your uncle also in the march to the camp, or?
No, but I didn't know the people in the house at all. It was just a house on the way.
But when the people that were not shot were taken to march to go to the camp, did you know where your uncle was?
I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about anything. I just knew that once I get into the camp, that's the end.
How did you know that? What triggered the warning not to go to the camp?
Well, I went through the ghetto already, and I went through when they killed everybody in Wieliczka. So I understood what's happening to the Jewish people. That I mustn't be recognized as Jewish, and I knew I will be. Because
so you leave the march and you go into a house. What happens then?
Then, of course, after everybody passed, the people living in the house, there were plenty of flats, started opening the doors, and they found me there. They said, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" And I said, "I just came from Warsaw." And so somebody asked me in. They just gave me something to eat, to drink, and
at that time you were still under the name Marie Poisson?
yes, yes.
And did you have papers with you?
Probably I did. I must have had. Without papers, nobody would have anything to do with you. So yes, the people said, so what do you want here? What do you want with us? I said, I don't know. So they said, you know, there is a summer school not far from here where all the children from the uprising stayed there because they were sent to a summer school, and then suddenly it broke out. So they said, you better go there. They told me where it was. The place was called Gnoina. It was not far from Warsaw. So I started walking. And then
For how long?
some hours, you know, in the field. And then I came to a village, and the family called me in. You want something to drink, to eat? They've seen them from the fighting going. They had a daughter, and they said, you've got some papers or something? I said, I've got nothing. I just came out of the cellars there. And they said, okay, you can have her papers, that she was in a hospital, she was sick, but something written, a piece of paper said, without this, they won't take you to the summer school. So that it turned into a children's home. So they gave me this paper, and I went there.
What was the name on the papers?
And the name was Alina Boguszewska. That was my new name. Oh, my God. So many names.
So you walked for hours?
And there I walked till I got there. And they said, okay, we take you in. And there were many children there. Of course, non-Jewish. Nobody knew about me being one. And we had normal classes, we had teachers. And I was very lucky to be there.
Did you have any contact with your mother at that time?
No contact with anybody. Not with anybody at all. I didn't know what was happening in the world at all.
And so you had classes. Did you have food?
We had to learn normally. We had classes and we had exams and everything.
And was there enough food?
So it was every week one of the older girls was cutting the bread in the morning. Everybody was getting a slice of bread. And then the one that cut, when it was finished, she was allowed to collect the crumbs and eat them. That was a big treat. So sometimes I was cutting the bread. It was a big privilege because I was one of the older girls. Every week a different girl was cutting the bread in the morning.
And what else did you eat?
And then was time of Christmas. So we made sort of a play like a theater. We were performing and the people from around were coming and they were giving some money to the school. And then we bought a little piglet and we were feeding it up, anything anybody could, you know. When we were peeling potatoes, collecting the peels, giving to the piggy to grow her for Christmas, that we would have a party, what to eat. Oh, that was the best time actually of the war. I was in the...
Was it a school for girls only, or were there boys
No,
also?
there were boys also. Yes, there were boys and girls and...
And many teachers? Did you all live together?
We all lived together, everybody. There were 2 or 3 girls to a room, 2 or 3 boys. You know, it was a big building. It was a summer school, it used to be. So it was for fun.
And do you have an idea of how many children were there?
Not really. I have such a booklet from there where everybody was writing, you know, at the time. So I have it still from the time of when I was in that summer school.
How old were the youngest?
Probably 8, 7, 8.
And the oldest?
15. Yeah.
So how long did you stay there?
Till the Russians came. One day they told us, everybody out, to stand outside. What's going on? End of the war. The Russians are coming. So we all standing there very afraid. And they came out of the woods, army guys, plenty, and they were very nice to us. They said, children, and they were throwing eau de cologne at us, and chocolates and things, because we were scared they might kill us, you know, everybody was so afraid, but they were very nice. And then they went away their way wherever they were going, the army. And we stayed in the summer school till some parents that survived the war started coming and taking the children back home. So, but I knew that nobody's going to come and get me, because who will be there? I didn't know if there's anybody alive, of course, and nobody knew I was Jewish either. I didn't know if there were any Jews alive. So I was between the last ones. And when we stayed few last children, the nuns came and they said, we're going to take you, we're going to take care of you and to give you away to some families for adoption. So they gave one here, one there, one there. And they wanted to give me, they gave me to a shoemaker's family who had 2 boys and they wanted a girl. So they said, yes, you're going to be called Marisha. They didn't want any papers. And you're going to be our daughter. So I went to live with this family. And they were very good to me, but it was terrible for me, you know.
Where was that?
It
Where?
was in the village, Gnoina.
Okay.
So I didn't know what to do, you know, I was there. And he made me a pair of shoes. And, and I was eating with them and I was comfortable, you know, and they were very strict with the boys. They should listen what I'm saying. I was the big sister, you know, supposed to be. And
how old were the boys?
Then I was already 14, 15, probably.
And the boys?
The boys? They must have been 12, 13, the smaller. My brothers were supposed to be. And I thought, well, that's going to be my life till the end. I said, I want to try and find my family. So I asked if they will allow me to go to the town where I was born, to go back to Wieliczka, and if there's nobody there, I come back, and that's it. We do the papers of adoption. But if I find somebody, I won't come back. So they said, all right. But the shoemaker said, yes, but I'm sorry, but you have to give me back these new shoes, because it was a fortune, you know. And I put on the shoes that my friend gave me, the spare pair, put some papers inside that they should fit me. And there came a train, there were the trains that were going between towns in Poland, then they were like for animals. There were no normal trains. It was open roof and everybody just sitting on the floor there.
I have to interrupt for a second. Okay.
Okay.
No, so the train?
So I got to Kraków and I took the train that I knew we were always going between Wieliczka and Kraków. And it was a normal train. I got the shock of my life. There were people dressed normally, everybody sitting there, you know, talking good. Seats, normal. I put myself in a corner. I was ashamed of anybody should see me. And I came to Wieliczka. So I knew that in my house there was Gestapo always. I went to my grandfather's house. There was a family living there that I knew in the first floor. So I opened the door and they say, "Oh, hello, how are you? Nice to see you." And I stand there like an idiot, saying, "Nice to see you. Were you at home already?" I said, "What home? Where home?" He says, "Your home." So I said, "Okay, thank you." And I ran quickly up to my home on Kilińskiego. And I opened the door, and it's a normal life. My mother was there, my aunt was there, my cousin was there. They sitting and having tea and cakes in the kitchen. I fainted immediately. I couldn't take it. I was out on the floor. And then, of course, I came back to myself. The life restarted after the war. It was unbelievable.
And
Sorry, Vivian. The part where she's telling about the house where her grandparents lived, we have to do it again because there's too much noise. We can't use it.
okay.
So the part before she went to her own house.
Okay, sorry, but there was too much noise. Can you just tell the story again when you arrived in your grandparents' house? Can we take it again from there?
Say what?
Can we? It's really necessary?
You want to take it again?
Yes, okay.
The same story.
Yes, sorry. Because the noise was, there was some noise. Okay. So you arrived at your grandparents' house. Can you take it from there?
Yes. And they asked me, "Have you been home already?" I said, "Which home? What you talking about?" And they said, "Your house on Kilińskiego 5 in Wieliczka." So I said, "Okay." And I ran quickly up to my house. And there was the whole family. They were having tea. And I just passed out.
When you came back to yourself, what did your mother tell you? What were the first words?
And they asked me how I managed to come back, where I was coming from. So I told them the whole story.
Do you remember what year it was?
It was when the war was over. What year was it?
That was 45, but how long did you stay in Goina?
Till the end of the war.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what did your mother tell you when you saw her?
Yeah, she was amazed. You know, we sort of started back the normal life. my friends, I went back to my school where there were no Jewish people left in Wieliczka. I was the only one in my school, in my high school, because it was before the metric. And I was very lucky that I could join in because I was learning before. Because there were many people that stayed, they didn't see a book during the war. And I was in the summer school there, and we had proper lessons.
And did your mother know about what happened to your sister?
I told them what happened, and they were looking for her. And they found her in a grave with all the others. And we brought her back to be buried in the Jewish cemetery next to my father in Wieliczka. She was buried. Yeah.
And when did you learn what happened to your brother?
My brother, we met only in England. After the war, we found each other because he was in the Polish army. There was an official Polish army fighting the Germans. And they went to England after the war, they came. And we met there because people were looking for each other, the name anybody stayed of this name, of this name, of this name. And there is a Friedman here, and there is a Friedman there. So we met.
And how did you get to England? So what happened? You went back to school?
I went back to school in Wieliczka, and then they came a rabbi from, his name was Rabbi Schenfeld, an English rabbi. He said all the Jewish children he wants to take with him to England, to an orphanage there, and to bring them up back as Jewish, not Catholic children. So everybody, he took many, many children, and between them, my mother sent me also there because I had family in London, so she knew I don't have to go to the children's home. I can go and live with my cousins in London. So he collected all the children. We went by boat.
Why did your mother send you? Do you know?
What she told me, that she's sending me, she's staying in Poland because she can't go. There's no money, no transport, nothing. But with this rabbi, I can get to the family there and learn English and become back normal, you know.
Were you happy to go?
Yes, yes, because I'm we got friendly, you know, all the children together there on the way. And
How old were you then?
then I was 15 already. Because I finished there was, you see, in Poland there was system of school, there was a small metric and then 2 more years and there was the big metric. So I did the small one with my friends in Poland, and then I went and I thought maybe I'll be able to continue learning or whatever in England. So
from Wieliczka, you took first, how did you go?
From Wieliczka, we were taken to the airport to Gdańsk. And there we stayed all together, the children, till the boat came, and then we got on the boat.
Do you remember how many children were taken to England?
I don't remember, but many. I didn't, you know, when we came to England, so I didn't stay friends with everybody. I stayed friends with 1 or 2, because I didn't go with them. I went to my family.
So who was your family?
I was lucky.
Yes, who were they?
They were, well, we were a very big family, and these were my cousins. They were the children of the Frankfurt rabbi. He was, one of my uncles was a rabbi in Frankfurt. And he sent his eldest son to study in London. And then the war broke out. So, of course, he stayed in London, he was saved. And he got married there to a Jewish woman, to a Jewish girl they lived in Stamford Hill, in the Jewish community there. And
so you stayed with them?
I stayed with them.
You went to school?
Yes.
What school?
First of all, I went to learn English, to a school when we were learning English.
And then?
And then I went to work. I didn't want to stay with them. I wanted to be independent, you know. I wasn't used to, they were very religious, and I wasn't brought up that way. I didn't grow up that way, and had to go to the synagogue and went, all that, you know.
Mm-hmm. And so you went to work where?
I went to work as a dressmaker. I started sewing buttons and things, you know.
And you lived by yourself?
Yes. I had a rented place, you know, half a room, sort of. Somebody was.
And how did you meet your brother?
Because then I got a better job. I started working in a factory already, and I had a place for myself. I could pay the rent every week, you know, I was getting wages, I was earning money, and I started looking, and he was looking also, he was in England. Oh, Friedman. So we met.
How was that?
Oh, that was fantastic. That was wonderful. And then we could rent a room together. See, it was cheaper. And then I found my cousin that my mother saved also from Wieliczka. She was between the children in London. And she was living, so we lived all three together. We could rent sort of 2 bedrooms. We were in 1 bedroom and he was in another, and we could use the kitchen for 2 hours a day. We were allowed to use the kitchen, and we were living all together.
So you have, how much time did you stay there? How much time did you stay there?
Quite some time, till I got a better job. Yeah. And I was taught, I went to learn designing and cutting knitwear. Then I started already. And my brother got work also in a knitting factory, a big factory. And Ala, what was she doing? She found some family in America, and they sent for her, and she left England. She left London for New York.
And so you stayed in London until when?
Yes.
Until when?
I stayed in London with my brother. A long time he lived there, till I went to, because you see, my mother was very, very Zionist, and she always wanted to live in Israel. And I was taught Hebrew already when I was 8 years old. So I knew the language and everything. And then I decided I want to go to Israel to see what's happening there. So I took off like 2 weeks for holiday to go to Israel. And my aunt, the sister of my mother, and my uncle, they were living in Israel, in Haifa. So I went there.
So how many people of your family survived the war?
There was my aunt and her husband and my brother, my mother,
and your cousin.
And the other family that was not from Poland. It was, you know, around the world.
And so you, from London, you had in London, while you were in London, sorry, you had news from your mother? You knew where she was? You were in contact?
She said, I said, to come to England, I wanted her to come to England, but you had to have a special permit to come to England from Poland. So somebody had to send papers. There was a Jewish family. They said they want her to be a domestic servant. They had the right to ask for a servant. So she came to live with them as a servant. And of course, it was a very simple Jewish family, but they were very rich and they were living in London. And my mother was a completely different type. And she couldn't take it. She stayed with them a bit, but she couldn't take it. They were, you know, bring me a cup of tea, do this, do that, clean my shoes. She said, I'm going back to Poland. So she went back, and then she went to Israel.
What year did she come to London? Do you remember? At what period?
I don't remember the dates. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So she went back to Wieliczka, and from there she went to Israel.
To Israel.
And at what time, do you remember what year you went to Israel?
I went there for a visit, sort of. And to see who is there. I was 18. So what year was it?
49.
Yeah. And I was staying with my aunt because they had a big flat and my mother had no money. She came, so she was staying in it was a school. They were living like in tents. Each one had a tent, and they were learning Hebrew. So she stayed there. She was there. And I stayed with my aunt. They were very well off. They had their flat, and you know, so I stayed with them. And then I said, okay, I'm going to find out who is there from Wieliczka, who my age people is in Israel who survived there. And there I met my husband, I mean, to be, who we met. I had a friend there, and I asked him, who else is here? You're here, and who else? And this one, and this one, and that one. And we all met together. So then I got married there in the house of my aunt. It was...
What was the name of your husband? The name of your husband?
Kinsler.
And his first name?
Leon Kinsler. Yeah.
So that was while you were visiting?
When I went to visit my cousins there. And then, of course, I stayed already in Israel because it got difficult to get back to England. I had a very good job there, and I was very happy there, but he couldn't come over. And actually, well, you know, life was difficult then. Nobody knew exactly what we're doing. I was very proud that I didn't have a proper English passport, but a stay that I could be there always. So I went to the English consulate and said, I got married here now, and this is my husband's name and parents and everything, all the papers. And they said, you can go back home, but he can't come with you. Excuse me.
It's okay. So he could not go back he could not go to England with you?
No.
So what did you decide to do?
So we had to stay in Israel. We stayed in Israel. And then we went through all sorts because it was a difficult time and he had no proper papers. So then we went to live with my uncle in Paris. We lived for a year in Paris. I could work then my job. I was qualified and I had papers. And he was sort of like a refugee at the time. So he just could do manual work if somebody paid him sort of on black, not official.
Lenny? Wait.
Lenny?
So you want to leave Israel and you go to France.
And what?
You go to France, to Paris.
Ah, yes.
Tell.
Sorry.
So you go to Paris?
We lived for a year in Paris.
And your husband, did he have a lot of family that survived?
His parents survived and they lived in Israel. And his brother lived in Israel. His older brother. The whole family lived in Israel, everybody. And then finally we went to settle in Israel also.
So you go to Paris and you stay, how long time did you stay in Paris?
For a year.
And you go back to Israel. And tell us more. So where do you go to stay in Israel?
Because it wasn't a life, he couldn't work there, he couldn't live a normal life. And
where did you go in Israel? What city?
We went to Tel Aviv.
And there you started to work?
There, yes. He was working in diamonds. He started working and everything.
And you?
And I was also working in a knitwear factory. such a long time, I don't quite remember everything.
And you were in contact with your mother at the time?
Yes, my mother lived in Israel and my aunt, everybody was in Israel at the time.
And how long did you stay in Israel then?
Oh, many years. My daughter was born there and Lenny was born there. They're all Israelis. They went to the army and everything.
So what year was your daughter born and what was her name? What is her name?
Her name is Jennifer.
When was she born?
Okay. When was she born? A long time ago. She'll be now about coming to 70, 69, something like that.
And she's the oldest. She was the firstborn.
Yes.
And then how many years after was your son born?
14 years till Lenny was born.
And that's his name? What's his name?
Lior.
And you were working, you continued to work?
Then I stopped because my husband was earning very well already in diamonds. He was working in his job. You know, we were all right.
And how long did you stay in Israel?
How long did we stay? Till we came here. He was working. The factory was in Israel, in Tel Aviv. We had a very beautiful house there in Savion. But he was coming here sort of every 2 weeks to buy diamonds, to sell, to the connection, diamonds, Antwerp is diamonds. So then we said, how about we try the other way around? And we came here.
Do you remember what year?
Well, Lenny should remember, he was about 17. He did part of his exams in Israel, and then he came here to the school to finish in English. He was lucky at home. I was always speaking English, so he picked it up and he could finish his studies very well here.
And what language did you speak with your husband?
Every language, actually, we spoke. Anything we felt like. We spoke Polish, we spoke English. With the children, I spoke only English, we spoke. But between us, and Hebrew, of course. So it was a mixture of languages we spoke at home.
And did your husband come from a religious family?
Not really, no. No. They were business people.
And how was your home after the war when you got married? Did you keep a kosher home or?
Did I coach? No, not at all.
Did you attend holidays? Did you go to?
Look, we were not religious, but traditional. So we kept always all the holidays, all the Jewish holidays. And some special ones like Christmas, so there was everything together.
Did you talk about the war with your husband?
No. Didn't want to think about it anymore.
Did you talk about it with your children?
Not really, no.
Your grandchildren?
They know whatever they know from, from history.
Are there some special occasions that bring back some memories of the Holocaust?
Special occasions?
Yes,
That
like
what?
holidays or birthdays.
That we came together?
That brings you back memories of the Holocaust.
I try not to think about it.
Mm-hmm. When everything that is happening around us with anti-Semitism, how do you reflect upon that?
Well, I tell you, I find it very difficult that there's so much anti-Semitism going now. It's so sad because actually, that's what's happening. Nothing to do about it. And I was brought up quite international. I know all about this religion and about that religion and about everything. I believe that there's something. There is God somewhere, but He's not thinking much about us people down here, unfortunately.
There is a very intense Jewish life in Antwerp.
Yes.
When you came to Antwerp, did you no?
Never had anything to do with it. We had all my friends here. We knew people from my husband's connection with diamonds, the Flemish people, and they were not Jewish.
So your life in yes.
Jewish community here at the time wasn't very nice. They didn't like newcomers.
So you lived with your husband outside of the Jewish community in Antwerp?
Yeah.
And your son?
He was in the international school, so he had all kinds of his friends. They're always coming home. And of course, the Israeli community that lived here, we were friendly with.
And did he stay in Antwerp with you, your son?
Oh, well, he had to go to the army. So I was getting him indifferent, and They said they let him finish his studies here. He can go a year later, but he didn't want to. He wanted to go with all his friends the same age, so he just went.
And so he went back to Israel to go to the army.
Correct?
And then did he come back to live in Antwerp
Yes.
after the army?
Yes.
And he stayed here for a long time, or?
Yeah.
And he lived always in Antwerp?
Pardon?
He lived in Antwerp?
Yes. No, now he doesn't.
So when did he?
But yes.
And
He
your
lived
daughter?
here. He had a very beautiful house not far from here.
And your daughter?
And my daughter, she went to live in Canada. She got married to somebody she met in Israel, but he had a lot of family in Canada, and she had a friend who lived in Canada, and she went there. So my grandchildren were born there, they're in Canada always.
When did your son leave Antwerp?
When did he leave Antwerp? I don't know, where is he? He can talk for himself.
Okay, and so you stayed with your husband here
Yes.
until your husband died?
Yeah, he
When-
died here in the house, unfortunately, yes. And I'm continuing just being here.
And did you ever go back to Poland?
Did I go back to Poland? I went with my husband. We went, I wanted to show him the house on Kilinskiego. Yes. We went there together.
Do you remember when?
I don't remember exactly when, sometime many years ago. There was a police station there at the time. In the house, they took over the place.
How did it feel to go back?
To see, you know, all the memories. It wasn't very happy because it was changed so much. And they wouldn't give me back the house, you know, the authorities, because first there was the police, and then there was the Bürgermeister of the house took over, he lived there, and the children of my brother from Australia, they were fighting with me together and with my cousin family to get the property back, but we never did, so it wasn't happy memories.
And did you meet some of your old friends when you went back? How was it?
It was lovely. Yes, of course.
They still lived in Wieliczka.
Yeah.
And did your husband find the house where he used to live?
He didn't, he lived in Bielsko,
Okay.
in a different town. He found the place.
And how was it for him to go back there?
It was very sad because, you know, it was emotional. He saw there that the flat was still the same, there was still the same furniture and other people living there.
Did you ever want to go back again?
Not really. My cousin who lives in London, he collected all the children of the family, he took them to Wieliczka to show them that's where we come from. And he's dreaming of going back again for a visit, but I don't think so. I don't know, they want to organize a trip that I should take them and show them around, but I don't know. I don't feel like it.
Because it's difficult, or?
It's, you know, a bit too emotional, too stressful going back again all over the place.
Is there something that you want to say to your grandchildren, for instance? A message that you have for them?
They know the story. There's nothing more to say. They live their own lives. They're going forward now. There's no going back. Not even pictures. It's all telephone and all that, you know.
And with the current situation regarding anti-Semitism, do you have a message for them?
Just live your own life and make the best you can, and that's it. That's the message to everybody. Be happy.
Is there something that we did not discuss that you would like to mention?
That what?
Is there something, a question I did not ask? Is there something else you want to add?
No. There's nothing special.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
We can look at some pictures maybe that you have of your family.
The what?
Look at some pictures.
You want to look at some pictures?
Who is this on the picture?
This is my mother, Bronisława Friedman.
Do you know where the picture was taken?
The picture was taken in Poland after the war.
Who is on the picture here?
This is my father and my mother with me in front of the house in Wieliczka.
So on the left, it's your mother in front of the house.
Yes.
And on it's the stairs that lead to the house.
Right.
And then below, below, who is on the picture?
Pardon?
So below it's your father.
Yes.
So do you remember when that picture was taken?
No, I don't.
And the picture with you and your mother, do you remember when they were taken?
After the war.
Okay.